Louis Vuitton is the most valuable luxury fashion brand in the world. Its CEO, Bernard Arnault, it's also the second wealthiest man on the planet with a net worth of around $180 billion. Looking at the success of today, you would never guess that the company was started by a man who was homeless during his teenage years, had no education, and slept in a forest. Louis Vuitton is a true rags-to-riches story, but the company would also be subject of a hostile takeover, countless lawsuits, and a host of other controversies. This is the insane story of Louis Vuitton, and how a tiny family business evolved into one of the most powerful brands in the world. Louis Vuitton was born in 1821 and grew up working on his family farm in France, in a small village called Angers in the middle of nowhere. They had no electricity and no running water. Louis's father, Xavier, was a miller and farmer, while his mother, Corinne, made hats to help make some extra cash. There are no records showing that Louis ever received an education. The nearest school was in a village 6 miles away, and it's believed he worked full-time on the family farm without learning how to read or write. Louis would have been working in the fields every day from dusk till dawn, just to make enough food to help feed his family. Needless to say, the Vuittons were struggling financially, and young Louis was born into a situation that should have doomed him from ever having a bright future. And then things got much worse. Louis's mother died when he was 10 years old, and his father quickly remarried another woman. But Louis's new stepmother was incredibly controlling and manipulative towards him, and he constantly got into fights with her. And so, when he was just 13 years old, he ran away from home, with plans to go to Paris. He slept out in the middle of the night without even saying goodbye. There was just one problem. Paris was 225 miles away, and Louis had no money or food, so he was forced to walk along dirt roads. Most nights, he slept in the woods with an empty stomach and just a cloak to keep him warm. Every time he ran into a new village, he would do odd jobs in exchange for food or coins. However, there was never enough money left over for housing, so he continued to sleep in the woods, or wherever he could find shelter for the night. Through these various odd jobs, Louis was able to pick up skills from craftsmen, and he learned how to work with metals, stone, fabric, and wood. This collection of various skills would later transform his life. But at this rate, travel was incredibly slow. It took him 3 years to reach Paris. Not long after he arrived in Paris, Louis was able to work as an apprentice box maker, and packer box makers would make custom-sized boxes for clients, as well as pack and unpack them whenever client was about to go on a trip. This job allowed him to meet many people from the upper class who were looking for custom-made luggage for their travels. And Louis worked there for several years, learning the craft and working as hard as he could. In fact, in 1851, the Empress of France ended up being a customer and took notice of his fine craftsmanship. She appointed him as her personal box maker and packer. For most box makers, this would be the highest honor anyone would ever achieve in their career. Louis had gone from being a homeless teenager with nothing to his name to now working a prestigious job among royalty. That was a massive achievement on its own, but Louis Vuitton had an even bigger vision for his future. After getting married when he was 33, Louis used his savings to start his own business and opened up his own box-making workshop in Paris to begin selling his own products. Louis had noticed a major flaw in the luggage of the day. All of the boxes were made of leather and had rounded, dole-shaped tops, so the rain will roll off the top of the luggage. The major issue that it was impossible to stack them, so a packer had to carry the boxes one by one. Louis began experimenting with different materials to use instead, and found that canvas was lighter, durable, and more water-resistant, which meant the trunks could have flat tops instead. This made everything more efficient, as it was now possible to stack them up in a pile and pack multiple trunks at the same time, and they were also more compact. Louis's new suitcase design brought on the dawn of modern modern-day luggage. At this point, Louis had already built up his professional reputation, as well as connections to the other class. So once he launched his new line of luggage, it was immediately a huge success. He even created a Louis Vuitton catalog so that customers could look at products that he had available, but have them made before sending it to their homes. Within 2 years of creating his new suitcases, they were considered an elegant must-have accessory amongst the wealthy, as it became a status symbol. And the brand had become so popular that he was receiving orders from around the world. He even began receiving orders from royals as far away as Egypt. In 1859, Louis made enough profit to hire a team of craftsmen to help fulfill his orders. He opened a new workshop outside of Paris where he hired 20 employees. Around that time, more and more people were beginning to travel by train and boat, so the number of his potential customers increased exponentially. Traveling was no longer a hobby exclusive to the rich. People from all walks of life were now in need of high-quality luggage. It would seem as though Louis had made it and would go on to succeed for the rest of his life. Unfortunately, that was not the case. France was heading to war, and tragedy was about to strike once again for Louis Vuitton. If you like the second part of the story, please like and subscribe, and thanks for your support in advance. See you next time.